Are you ready to learn? Because my super experienced guests are ready to share some really valuable information. Make sure and listen all the way to the end to get help and support. So let's start with the best audio experience.
Hello guys, welcome to our show. Today we discuss about direct response marketing, how you can increase results, sales, and many other things that you can get by using the correct way, this type of marketing. And I'm so excited to discuss this topic with Rick Cesari. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. And thank you for having me on your show today. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, big pleasure, big pleasure. I want to learn more about that. So before we start, just tell more about yourself, experience, background, and why you have so many books on your background.
Okay. Well, I'll try to condense it into a short time, but I'm pretty old, so I have a lot of experiences. But anyway, I've been doing direct response marketing for over 30 years, or direct to consumer marketing. And I got started back before there was an internet. And we were using newspaper ads to generate people to come to seminars. And then I started using television and direct response television and infomercials, and got started in that at the very beginning of when they were popular. And I used them to create my own business called the Trillium Health Products, and we marketed a product called the Juice Man Juicer and the Bread Man Bread Machine. And we were, pretty lucky. We were in the right place at the right time with the right message, and that business grew to about 75 million in sales in about 4 years. And this was back in 1993, and we sold it at that time to Sultan, a company in Chicago called Sultan Housewares. Sultan liked the way that I was doing the marketing and asked if I could help him with a product. And that product turned out to be the George Foreman Grill. So we did all of the infomercials for the George Foreman Grill. And then after that, people just started coming to me and asking me to help them do their marketing. So I started an agency. This was about in 1996. And I ended up doing a lot of the original OxyClean infomercials and TV advertising. Sonicare, Clarisonic, trying to think what else. And then, fast forward, I've done lots and lots of projects, but then we ended up doing all the television marketing for the GoPro camera, and they grew from zero to about $1 billion in sales in about 8 years. So it was a very successful project. Then about 4 years ago, I wound down the agency, and now I've been writing books and doing podcasts like this and speaking. And I do a little bit of consulting, direct to consumer consulting now as well, with companies or products that I like. So that kind of is a little summary of my background and history.
Yeah, nice experience, nice journey. I love it. And guys, you can find the link to the podcast in the description below. I'm going to subscribe, so I recommend 100% to subscribe. And let's talk about direct marketing. Can you tell where to start? For example, I get a lot of companies who need SEO, but they often ask me different ways how to get traffic and sales. So any insights if some companies start from scratch, how to create the right strategy and provide implementation?
Yeah, my whole background and what I still use effectively with companies today kind of falls into a main category. So I kind of look at the advertising they're doing, and a lot of companies don't understand the concept of what direct response marketing is. And direct response really is that you're making an advertisement, but you're also then making an offer, or basically telling the viewer, whether it's an online ad or a TV ad or whatever, you're telling them to take a specific action. And I found that this has been a powerful format for companies to generate traffic. So the difference is, if I'm working with a client and they might be running Facebook ads or whatever, I'll come in and maybe just change the creative a little to make the ads more of a direct response nature and drive it. It helps drive more traffic to the website. When I started in my career, I mentioned some of the big projects I worked on. Television used to be the way we launched products, but now we do everything online, using paid ads. And then once we have successful online success, kind of phase two is layering in some TV. And we're doing it right now with a company called Dormeo that sells mattresses and mattress toppers. And it's an old European brand, about 25 years old. But they started a direct to consumer business in the US, and we used Facebook ads originally for them to grow very quickly. And then now we're using both a combination of Facebook and TV, direct response TV, and they're seeing really dramatic growth. So when I look at a company or a client, to answer your question, I look and see if there's a way using paid advertising that we can increase traffic to their website.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, agree. It's better to learn other channels and think how you can set up. But I found one interesting thing. For example, once I decided to use totally the same data from my website to YouTube channel, and I failed because audience is different. On YouTube, people love learning educational content. On website, they're looking for ordering services. On LinkedIn, even people are different. Can you tell how to consider that other marketing channels probably have different audience, different mindset? We can't use totally the same data, and how to adapt this data to direct response marketing?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I'm going through that with a client right now. I'm working with another client called Theradome, and it's a laser hair growth helmet like this. And
Yeah.
they were just doing traditional retailing through brick and mortar, and we helped them start direct to consumer. So we started out, again, not to be repetitious, but they were spending zero. We started a Facebook campaign, and that's successful. And then we basically went to TV, and then we started saying, well, how can we be successful on YouTube? And to be honest with you, to what you just said, we still haven't figured that out correctly. And so, but we're also trying to expand to TikTok. And one of the things is a little bit of experimentation. That's one thing that we learned through direct response marketing, is you have to test a lot of the creatives and a lot of the ads and see which ones perform. And then in my experience is, once you do the testing and you're figuring out a creative that works on a specific platform, usually you can spend a lot ramping that up. In other words, you don't have to be constantly changing the creative. The hard part is finding which creative works. And that's just a matter of testing, and also using the learnings. Like if you're doing successful Facebook and Instagram, and then we learn from that, and then we say, okay, what can we learn from that to use for TV? And then after that, we say, okay, how can we make this work on YouTube and TikTok? And it just takes testing different creatives until you find the one that people respond to. And that's kind of the best way that we use the data from the people's response or lack of response that we're getting.
Yeah, sometimes I don't use data, I use intuition, because data can provide like, I don't know, the average information, but if you have intuition, you can test different formats, to analyze. And some of my posts got like 300,000 views on LinkedIn because of testing many different things. I don't recommend to use generic best practices. It's better to find something new to test them, as you mentioned. Yeah, I agree 100%. And on your LinkedIn profile, I see that companies should focus on using compelling videos to build brands and create more sales. Can you tell more about compelling videos? How to film these videos?
Yeah, so there's so many statistics about why you should be using video, and people engage, and really the short answer is there's so much information, people don't take the time to read anymore. And the majority of people like to just look at something and get their information through video. And there's tons and tons of statistics to support that. So that brings up why you should be using video as a big part of your marketing. And for me, my favorite type of videos to use, which from a marketing perspective are, an old word for it is testimonial, but it's user generated content, that type of thing. And those things are really effective for marketing. The video just has an impact. This is a video podcast we're doing, and people see it, and they just respond better to video. So when I go into a client, I look and see, and you'd be surprised. I have another client I'm working with right now. They make teak cutting boards, and they're based in Mexico City. They're called Teak House, and they aren't using any video at all. So I started talking to them and saying, okay, the first thing I like to do with a client like that, or direct to consumer client, product customer, is let's go to their database and reach out to existing customers and see if we can interview some of those customers on a platform like this. There's lots of online platforms that let you do a video interview. And basically, I try to talk to about 20 different customers. And so a couple great things happen. One, I'm recording it, so I have great video that I can use then in the marketing. You can use on the website, YouTube, different, TikTok, whatever platforms. But also I'm learning a lot because the customers are telling me what they liked about the product, why they bought it, maybe what they don't like, so we can improve it. And it's a really, really good educational tool to help in your marketing, getting this feedback from existing clients. And then you as you're doing that, you also can use the video in your marketing channels.
Yeah, love it. Okay, Rick, I have the question about how to hook attention in the beginning, because today most users bounce fast. According to YouTube, 80% of people can bounce for 20 seconds. Now, it's the same with reading books. It's the same with articles. People. You need to catch their attention. You need to hook them. It's not about the modern digital era. For example, Joe Sugarman wrote on his book 40 years ago. He is one of the best marketers ever, and he shared that you need to catch their attention. You need to give a solid reason to read the whole book. Today, it's like to consume the whole content. Can you tell how to film such videos that can take attention from the beginning and retain until the end?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and it's something that's so important to do because people's attention span, are very limited. If you don't catch their attention right away, they're off on something else. And so, there's a lot of techniques I've used over the years, both online, on TV, currently doing it. And, I feel like one way, there's several different ways, and this definitely isn't all of the answers, but one of the simplest way is to ask a question. Do you need to lose 10 pounds? Would you like to be more fit? How would you like to prepare this delicious meal in 10 minutes? Or just a question that you're depending on what the product is and what the attention, what the category or the viewer is, you're trying to capture their attention, something that's going to be appealing to them. And then that question, then the video is going to provide the answer coming up. So usually I found that that's a really good way of catching people's attention. Another way is to use a real interesting fact, to start the video off with a real interesting fact. I'll use a real example. When we were selling the juice machines, there was a news story that came out on CNN that said that they found an element in broccoli that was shown to prevent breast cancer. So we basically put that factoid up at the beginning of the video. And then if anybody that's interested in learning more about that is going to listen to it. So it's kind of basically, it goes back to, there was a famous, trying to think, David Ogilvy, who like father of modern advertising. He said that, and he was talking about print media, but he said that the most important part of your ad is the headline. So you have to think about that when it comes to video is what's the headline, or what's the thing that's going to capture the people's attention. And sometimes you can do it after the fact. You can record a video and saying, okay, now looking at that video, what's the most interesting fact in there, and move that information up to the beginning. A lot of times when I used to make infomercials, I didn't know what all the content would be, and I wouldn't build the beginning of the infomercial until after I had all the content, and I would take the most interesting testimonials, sound bites, whatever, and put them right in the beginning of the video. So part of it is looking at what the material that you have to work with and putting the most interesting information at the very beginning. And that's the thing that's going to help catch their attention.
Nice. Yeah, you remind me. Once I had a client who told me, if you provide results for a month, I can share a big contract. But in SEO, it's literally impossible for a month to do anything. But luckily he had website about weight loss supplements, and he had traffic like 100K a month. So what we did, we opened all pages that generate traffic, and found that all headlines were written for the sake of having them. Nothing special. Content is great, but headlines are terrible, just generic. So what we did, thank you for reminding about Ogilvy, because he told, if you invest $1 to content, 80% of them needs to go to a headline.
Yes, so, absolutely. That's the famous David Ogilvy quote.
Yeah. And what we did, we rewrote all these titles and descriptions on these pages, and traffic increased in 2 times for a month. It's not because of the secret. It's not because we know magician. That was just sharing the right headlines that people want to click, because it's not about the ranking position. It's more important if your headline gives a strong reason to open content, to read it, because even if you have the best content in the world, nobody knows if they don't click to the headline.
I'll say something real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, one of the things that's important for anybody, this is the guy we were talking about, David Ogilvy.
Yeah.
So, one of the things I like to bring out is, everyone's always looking for, tips and hacks and what's working right now and how, but if you're really into marketing, you really need to kind of go and study what's been successful in the past, because human nature really doesn't change. And if you know what's the kind of things that worked in the past, they'll work in today's market, because the only thing that's different, the different platforms like YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, those are delivery platforms, but the people consuming the messaging are still people. So people have been doing successful marketing for years and years and years. So I always tell people, if you want to be really good at marketing, go back and study the people that were successful in the past, and then you can apply a lot of those basic principles. So another one of my really favorite books is a guy named Dan Kennedy, who wrote the No BS Guide to Direct Marketing. And that's basically the very first book I ever read on direct marketing. And as you start to learn the principles and techniques, the things you learn become very applicable in today's market and today's technology and platforms and things like that. And your example is a perfect one of using the headline and testing different headlines to find the one that's going to produce the best results.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's talk about, once I had a conversation with Jim Edwards. He worked in company Business Insider for 10 years. He started on this company from scratch. Then the company was sold for $500 million, 1,000 employees, big company. Right now, he writes books, provides consultancy, and he told me their main secret was to create non-boring content in boring niche. So, and I found a lot of educational content are boring. Many business books are boring. For example, if I take any book from Jack London, he wrote these books 100 years ago. I can forget about sleep, water, meal, anything. Because I on this book. My mind is on this adventure. I can feel that I'm part of this book. But many business books, when you take them, they are good for sleep. So you can read them and sleep well all night. You don't need any pills. So just take one of the boring books. Tell how to create non-boring content from your experience. How to engage audience. Of course, it's important to educate. And I don't like, when people are not funny, are trying to be funny. That's okay. Another book that I wrote, I read about a girl, and she didn't have any friends. She was so introvert, but once she decided to post content about herself, and 1 million people followed her, because 1 million people are the same. So she was not trying to be funny, but she decided to be yourself, to tell her story, and 1 million people are the same. So she surrounded herself with 1 million people. And what do you think? How to create non-boring content? Because if content is boring, people leave, forget, and never get back. Any insights about that?
So from listening to your question, I think there's two separate answers I'm going to give.
Okay.
First, talking about that example you gave of the woman and creating the content, and what it says to me is, and what I find is, and you hear this word a lot, is authenticity. It's like you're just being, you're not trying to do something that you aren't. You're just sharing who you are really as a person, or the information you're sharing with people is authentic. And I know that's kind of a word you hear all the time, but it's true. And as long as you're doing that, people will say, "Hey, that resonates with me. That makes sense." And people can tell. I think that people have a kind of a built-in BS detector, and they can tell if something isn't authentic or not. And I've discovered that the hard way in marketing, doing testimonials and using actors for testimonials versus real people. And I never do that anymore. I always use real people. But the other one you mentioned before about educating the consumer, that's been a huge item that I've used in all the projects that I've ever had success in, is educating the consumer. If you educate the consumer, you really don't have to sell the consumer. You're basically making them aware of a products or services, the benefits of your product or service, through education. And so what's the education? It's, it's blogging, it's videos, any way you can communicate with your newsletters, any way you can communicate with your customer. And you're not necessarily talking about yourself. You should be talking about things in terms of who your clients or customers are and what would be interesting to them. So, I can give you hundreds of examples. I'll use the Juice Man juice machine, for example. We basically, we were up against two big German companies, Braun's and Krupp's, and they talked about, they were German companies and they were proud of their engineering, and they talked about the size of the motor and how sharp their blade was and dishwasher safe plastic. We took it and we said, here's the benefits of drinking carrot juice or whatever kind of juice. You can lower your cholesterol, you can have more energy, you can live longer. And we provided lots and lots of content showing the health benefits of the juice. And we didn't try to sell the machine. We just educated people about the health benefits of drinking fresh juice. And then they gravitated towards the juicer. We did that same thing with the George Foreman grill. People love grilled food, but they didn't like necessarily all the fat and things like that. So we showed how the grill could remove fat from the food and you could enjoy your favorite foods with less fat and grease. And again, almost every type of success. Another example is the Sonicare toothbrush. When that came out, it was a $150 toothbrush, and the most expensive toothbrush on the market was like, most toothbrushes were $1 or $2, and there might have been one that cost $20, but nothing cost $150. So why would someone buy a $150 toothbrush? We had to educate the consumer. So basically, we had to teach them about gum disease, and gum disease was caused by bacteria in the nooks and crannies of your teeth. And Sonicare, with its sonic technology, could clean beyond the bristles and reach into those nooks and crannies where the bacteria hid and kill them and reverse gum disease. So anybody then that, think about all the people that go to the dentist, get a dental checkup, and a dentist says, oh, you're starting to have some gum disease. So you're talking to that particular audience. So I've always found that educating the consumer is a great way of marketing. And that's what your content should be focused on your product and service, and thinking of it in terms of what's the benefit to the end consumer, and really focus your content on that.
Yeah, valuable. Love it. I opened your LinkedIn profile and I like the word persuasion. Can you tell more about video persuasion? How to persuade the audience, customers to buy? For example, some content creators can get a lot of traffic, but low conversion because they can't persuade them, to buy products. Any insights about that?
Yeah. So again, I always refer to a lot of books that I've read that have been successful, but you might have seen this one.
Oh yeah, I read this book. Awesome.
Basically, it's called Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion, and there's 6 basically rules of persuasion in here. So what I did is I took those 6 rules of persuasion and said, here's how you can implement those in using your video. And basically, again, that goes back to the whole thing of understanding human psychology and the way people think and what makes people respond. And if you can, and just a simple example we talked on before is one of the persuasion principles is social proof. And we talked about testimonials, user-generated content, that type of thing. And that's such a powerful tool to use. And it's basically in this book, if your viewers haven't read it, this guy's a professor at the University of Arizona State University, and he did studies that show that these different persuasion principles, how people would respond to them. So what I do when I'm working on a video is I don't try to include all 6 persuasion principles, but as many as possible that you can do. And the concept of let me see, there's a couple good ones. They just are looking in here so I remember them off the top of my head.
Nice.
Have you read this book?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's I
love this book. One. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so sorry. Yeah, so
I think it's a must-have for anyone.
Yeah. So let's use one of the persuasion principles is authority. So in our advertising, we talked about using testimonials, but basically when they talk about authority is if you see a commercial or a video, and I try to do this with certain products, and let's say it's a supplement. So you would want to hear from like a naturopathic doctor or a medical doctor or something telling us why turmeric is good to relieve pain. And if you were selling a turmeric supplement. And so that's the concept of authority, is including somebody like that has credentials that people look up to and they respond to that. So little simple things like that, that as many of these principles that you can include in your advertising really help from a persuasion standpoint. And again, these aren't like new things. These are time-tested principles that have worked. They worked 20 years ago, they worked 10 years ago, and they'll work 10 years from now. So the more you understand about those type of things, the better your advertising can be.
Nice. Yeah, agree. Okay, let's talk about common mistakes. Can you list mistakes that companies still do in using direct response, and how to find a much better way?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, I look at everything through a lens of direct response. So normally when I look at a company and look at their marketing and look at their website, first I'll look at a website and it's like, is there video on the website? A lot of times you go to a website and there's no video. And I think the most powerful thing you can have right at the beginning of the website is like a 1 to 2 minute video that basically tells them everything they need to know in a short, condensed way, what it is that your business does and why you should buy the product. And it's again, that video becomes a hook to pull people in to read the rest of the website. And I think that that's a common mistake, that people aren't using. Either one, they're not using any video on their website, or they're not using enough. The second thing when I look at a website is, is there that social proof? Do they have testimonials? So a lot of times now, you'll look and you'll see lots of 5-star reviews, lots of Amazon reviews, but these are print testimonials, which are okay. But as long as you have those print testimonials, you can make it more powerful by making them video testimonials. Again, video is one of the more powerful mediums for communication. So the more you use it in your marketing, the better off you can be. So really, those are just a couple of the mistakes when I look at a product marketer or website or whatever. Are they using enough video? Do they have enough social proof or testimonials on there? Is there, we just talked about third-party credibility. Has it been endorsed, or there've been newspaper articles about it or magazine articles about it? That's the third party credibility. All of those things need to be in there. And then, if you take it from an advertising standpoint, I think the very first thing I look for, again, without being repetitious, is I can look at an ad and, there's a big difference between a brand ad, which most small businesses won't benefit from, as opposed to a direct response ad. Now, a lot of times the content's the same, they just don't have a call to action. So usually if it's a small business trying to generate revenue or generate traffic, I make sure that their advertising has some type of call to action in it. So those are kind of basic mistakes I see a lot of people making.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, great list. By the way, I think mistakes, that's good to have mistakes. For me, it's hard.
Absolutely, that's how you learn. Yep.
Yeah, I remember when Shaquille O'Neal shares about his mistakes, and he told when he started something new, he always makes mistakes, but it's the part of the learning journey. So you make mistakes, you can learn how to go ahead, because you can't learn anything without doing mistakes. So yeah,
I have a friend who used to tell me that life is a series of non-fatal mistakes. So
Yeah.
you kind of keep making mistakes and moving forward and learning from your mistakes. I mean, that's the experience or the school of hard knocks. And hopefully, though, one way to kind of um, bypass that a little bit is really learning from other people's experience, and that's where the reading of the books comes in, and go listening to podcasts and learning from people that have done it before. And then even if you do that, when you're trying to do something in a new category or something you haven't done before, mistakes are inevitable. You're going to make mistakes, but again, like you said, that's the way you learn from it and move forward.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Rick, I have the question about, let's imagine you started from scratch without any experience, knowledge, skills. You didn't do anything in direct response. So, what will you do today to learn more about that?
Well, that's a good question. So what you were asking me is I started off with nothing and no knowledge. I mean, even
Yeah,
to tell people like I'm like my whole background and everything I do is in marketing, but to tell everybody in college, I was I got a biology degree. It had nothing to do with marketing. So it's come a long way. And so everything I've learned is really kind of learning two ways. One, and again, a little repetitious, learning from other people's experience, reading lots of books, going to seminars, going to webinars, learning, but then also, and this is a big thing, and I think it separates a lot of entrepreneurs from people that aren't, is, the old Nike saying, just do it, I think people are so afraid of making a mistake or being a failure or having a failure that they don't try something. And that's the only way you're going to learn. One, if it works, and two, if it's something that you can do. And if you never try something, you'll never learn. So learn, do as much preparation as possible. Reading, understanding, learning from other people's experience. And the second part of that is whatever it is you're wanting to do, go out and try it, and don't be afraid to make a mistake or even have a failure, because that's the way you're going to learn. And sometimes you get really lucky and you get successful on your first chance. That doesn't happen all the time, but it definitely happens to some people. And then as you start having success, really, it just builds on itself. So I don't know if it's that's a lot different than what your question was, what I would do today versus what I did then.
yeah,
The one thing was, when I was younger, I wasn't really thinking in these terms. Now I'm looking back and saying, okay, I realized what I did, but I almost kind of did it instinctually. It happened to me. But I think from what I know now, it would definitely shorten the success curve. It took a lot longer for me to be successful back then because I had to, excuse me, I had to make a lot of mistakes and learn from them before being successful. I first started doing television advertising around 1984, and I didn't have a really successful business doing it until 1989. So there was like 5 years of learning in there before
yeah.
I had a really big success that I could benefit from.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. It's like patience, because without patience, it's impossible to achieve anything. I remember Gary Vee shares about patience. He told, even if you do anything wrong for 5 years, that means you have a lot of chance to succeed. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what kind of mistakes you have. You need to have patience. I remember, for example, Mr. Beast. He filmed videos an year and a half to get only 1,000 subscribers. Right now, he has like 120 million subscribers. Everyone knows him, but
Wow.
he couldn't achieve results for a long time. PewDiePie filmed videos like he filmed 100 videos to get 285 subscribers. Right now, PewDiePie has 100 million subscribers, a lot.
Yeah.
And these guys didn't give up. They just do what they love. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, that's one of my favorite quotes, and it has to do with success and talks to what you were just saying. but I think the quote came from Winston Churchill during the Battle of Britain. And he said, never, never, never give up. And that's really good advice for an entrepreneur trying to start a business is if you don't give up, you'll never end up being a failure because eventually you'll be successful. And a lot of people, they see people like you're talking about with millions of viewers and they think that it was an overnight success, and it isn't. It takes a lot of really consistent hard work, and day after day after day, and then all of a sudden you'll wake up one day and it's like, wow, there's the viewer. You know what I mean? It doesn't happen overnight, but so the consistency and the hard work is really important.
Yeah, agree. Okay, Rick, I have the final question.
Okay.
Can you predict the future in direct response? What kind of future will be? Because many things are coming, metaverse, augmented reality, I don't know, we will see. But what kind of future will be and how to adapt today to this future?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And, it's, I when you start reading about, artificial intelligence and the chat type of thing that's
GPT.
coming out that basically can do copywriting for you. I think if, it's always important to understand new technologies or work with someone who understands the technology. It's so hard to be like a master of everything. And so if you can't understand the technology, at least find somebody that does, that you can work with. But I think that direct to consumer business is going to keep increasing, online e-commerce, whatever. I mean, it's already going gangbusters, but it's just going to keep increasing. So the most successful ones in direct response marketing. So to me, the more you understand those principles, the more success you'll have, regardless of the technology and how the technology evolves. And I was reading something about the new artificial intelligence, and they were saying it'll probably put 80% of the copywriters out of business, which are bad or mediocre copywriters, but the 10 to 20% that are really good, they'll know how to utilize the technology to their advantage. So become really, really good at what you do and embrace technology to help make it better. Would be, I don't know if it's a prediction of the future, but just a kind of a way of surviving.
Yeah, it's hard to predict the future, we'll see. But I agree, you need to be consistent, you need to have patience, and you need to love what you do. That's it. So if you have passion, consistency, hard work,
And hard work.
you'll achieve.
And
You'll
don't give
achieve
up.
results.
I mean, and if you think about those four things we just talked about, that they would be relevant 20 years ago, they're relevant today, and they'll be relevant 20 years from now. Basic foundational elements to success.
Modern students scared that AI will replace humans. AI will replace some occupations, but we got the same many times. Some occupations disappear. That's okay. That's part of the evolution. Of course, AI will replace some occupations. Even today, I'm using AI tools because these tools can help to save my time. But AI can't replace all occupations. You still have a room to improvement, and the best way to adapt to new technologies, as you mentioned, you need to adapt, to learn from them, and think how you can improve your products by using these technologies.
And also then learning enough about it to figure out, right now there's this technology out there, but not a lot of people are, how do you use that technology then to generate revenue? And that's what you need to be thinking of in terms of, can I use that AI to help me create better, more interesting content? for my people. It can become a tool to help you do what you're currently doing, but like you said, doing it faster and saving time. And that's really the biggest benefit of technology, is how it can save you time and energy, and possibly even create a better result.
Yeah. By the way, AI doesn't have a golden button. When you click, you get a complete product.
Well,
You need.
I'll give you an example. We are using some AI chat for this product. We run a
Mhm.
TV infomercial, and it's an expensive product. The cheap one is $500, and the expensive one is $1,000. And so people have a lot of questions, and we're using the chat AI system, that when people call in, come in and they're not ready to buy, but they have questions. We're using it in a customer service fashion, and it's really helping convert. I think last month, it helped convert over 80 sales,
Nice.
which is really, really amazing. And so that's one where it's doing a good job. It's replacing a customer service person with technology, but it's making the business more efficient. And as they're growing, they have to hire people in other areas. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a good tool in the right areas.
Nice. Love it. Rick, it's a big pleasure to get on my show, to learn from you. Tell our audience the best way how to reach out to you, how to learn more about you, how to follow you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to do that. You can visit my website. It's my name. It's rickcesari.com. It's RickCesari, rickcesari.com. Or you can email me, rick@rickcesari.com. And if you go on Amazon, there's one of the books we talked about today, Video Persuasion.
Mhm.
Another one is called Building $1 Billion Brands. And I got another one about Amazon, how to make money on Amazon. So those are just a few of the books. And, from all the books I held up during our conversation today, I'm a big advocate of either reading or learning through other people. And if you're interested in getting and using more video in your marketing, the Video Persuasion book is great. And you can get them on Amazon.
Nice. Guys, you can find all these links to the books in the description below. You can find a website in the description, LinkedIn profile. So follow Rick. You can see a
That's
lot of
awesome.
valuable insights. Okay, guys, love you. See you.